Today we're going to try Mike's Mighty Good Craft Ramen, which I found at Walmart for $1.87, I believe was the price. And this is the chicken ramen soup version. Now, I've been going through a lot of ramens lately. I found those new ramens, the twisted noodles. Those were actually very decent. And I'm very curious about this because it's a little bit more of a premium price. Cup noodles, are under $1. Typically 50, 60 cents, depending on where you buy them and how you buy them in packs or whatever. So a little bit up there, but not too crazy, because there are a lot of more expensive ramens than this, even though this is a fairly small cup. So on the back, they say, "At Mike's Mighty Good, we believe in good food. We're about making craft ramen for a new generation." So I guess that's not me. That's why we make our own organic noodles from scratch and bring you insanely rich broths with simple ingredients. Taste the difference and savor the good. They recommend you can add sliced chicken, green onion, minced garlic, shallots, or seaweed on top, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to eat what's in here, and our instructions, which hopefully nobody would really need instructions for ramen, but remove the lid, seasoning packet, and oil packet. Okay, that's new. From the cup, add boiling water to the fill line. Sit and cover, let stand for 6 minutes. Then pour contents of seasoning and oil packets into the cup, stir, and enjoy. So typical thing, except there is an oil packet, which is definitely a new thing. And they have insanely rich broth, according to the things. So I'm very excited. This is something I'm hoping turns out really good, partially because I'm very hungry right now, and partially because I love ramen noodles. So hopefully Mike knows how to make a good ramen, and we'll find out in a second, because I got water boiling, and I'll be back with the finished product. All right, here's our Mike's. It's been sitting for about 8-9 minutes, so it's fully cooked. There you can see the noodles. They have a good smell to them, decent smell. The broth looks good. It smells kind of weird, so I'm a little bit curious about this. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, it looks like it has a good look. It has a good color to it, but it kind of smells weird, that's all. So we'll see how it tastes. One thing I'll say, the seasoning packet was a little bit clumpy, which kind of sucks. It's not like there's anything wrong with it. The date is for like 6 months from now. So I don't know why that was, but it was a little bit clumpy, but it seems like it's dissolved after I stirred it pretty well. And then I put the oil in there, which hopefully adds a nice, finish to these noodles. But they are organic, unbleached wheat flour noodles with chicken broth, chicken fat, organic sunflower oil, sea salts, yeast, blah, blah, blah. They're all like good ingredients. There's not really anything artificial. It's mostly organic stuff, with some green onion, cabbage, spicy mushrooms. That sounds good. Spices, mushrooms, organic wheat gluten, soy sauce, chicken, organic sugar, organic sesame oil. So good quality stuff for the price. Just have to see how it tastes, which I'll tell you now. Hopefully Mike's doesn't let us down. If it does, at least we can go back to our new favorite, twisted noodles. Let me try to get a decent bite here. My noodle skills are failing me right now. My ramen noodle skills are failing me. So there's a decent taste. I'm gonna dip it a little bit, get it wet. Let's try it. Unfortunately, our boy Mike here has put me in a bit of a difficult position with how to rate this, because I don't particularly like it. I think it's okay, it's decent. I don't think it even competes with regular cup noodle, and that might be part nostalgia talking, but I think what it is part MSG, part flavor. This is just, I think because the idea is that it's simple ingredients, organic ingredients, they're not really using any preservatives and things like that. There's no MSG, all that good stuff. I think the problem becomes that it kind of lacks the punch you really want from a nice ramen. The noodles, they're the raw, I guess, unbleached wheat flour noodles. They also have kind of a weird taste to them, kind of a, I don't want to say, almost kind of a stale taste. Like, I don't want to say anything too bad about them, because they're fine. They're not like bad, but they don't soften as well as like ramen noodles, and which, the bite might be something you like, but they do have kind of a weird aftertaste to them. And I don't know if that's because of the wheat flour, or the unbleached aspect of it, or the organic aspect of it. I'm not sure what is really making it like that, but the noodles, they're pretty meh. There's a little bit of a there's a little bit of a kind of stale taste to them. That's the best description I can come up with. Stale. Some synonym of stale that somebody can think of in the comments, because I can't think right now. The broth, though, the broth is good in the way that kind of like a homemade chicken soup broth is good. Like if you're boiling your own like chicken bones, like chicken carcass or whatever, with some carrots and onions and stuff. It's got that kind of taste to it, but it's very thin. It's very it doesn't have like I'm not a chef, but I know when you make your own broth, which I've done before, there's something about like the collagen which makes it thicker and kind of like creamier, your broth, based on like how long you cook it and how much of the bones kind of melt off or something like that. And you can make a really good homemade chicken broth. This tastes like somebody made a homemade chicken broth but didn't add enough seasoning, or didn't, let it cook long enough or whatever. It's just kind of like a very basic homemade taste to it, which is not a bad thing. It's interesting thing to have in a ramen meal that you're going to heat up in 5 minutes with boiling water. It just doesn't compare to the others, which the others, I guess, are cheating because they're using, MSG and a bunch of other stuff to punch up the flavor of their cheaper ingredients. Whereas this is using real ingredients. It's just not executed well enough to compensate for the extra things that their competition are doing. So in a way, this might be better for some people if you like more of a homemade kind of taste. This has it. I mean, I ate the whole thing. You can see there, that's actually dried garlic. It does have a decent garlic taste to it, but I only kind of tasted it towards the end because the dried garlic kind of sank to the bottom, and that's where it stayed. So those last few bites were nice and garlicky, but most of the broth was just fairly plain. It has a real chicken taste to it, unlike chicken top ramen or chicken cup noodles, which don't really taste like chicken. They have their own kind of thing going on. This really tastes like an actual chicken broth. So I'll give it to them. I'll give it to Mike for that, but I just don't want to pay more for something that doesn't taste as good. Even though it's 100% probably better for you, I can tell already. I mean, it does have a lot of sodium, like all ramen noodles. It has a ton of sodium. But in every other way, this is going to be a healthier alternative, and probably in the salt too. I don't know how much a cup noodle has right now. This has 780 milligrams of sodium, which is a lot. But everything else about it, screams this is, natural, quality ingredients. It's just the recipe doesn't punch up the broth enough to make it comparable to its competition. It's cheaper competition, much cheaper competition. So this could be great for some people. If you're somebody who's more into making your own foods and like you want something quick, this might be more to your palate than perhaps a cup of noodle. But if you're somebody like me who's used to eating the cheap stuff, used to the cup of noodles, and you like the way they taste, then this one is probably not going to hit for you. It could be just a thing where, it does happen where you eat enough kind of processed crap like me, and you grow to accustomed to it, and you kind of like it, and then when you're eating something more natural, more real tasting, it doesn't taste quite as good for you. It's possible that if you're somebody who's very healthy and makes your own meals most of the time, this could really, blow you away. But for me, it just doesn't compare to the big boys in the game, even though it is definitely a better quality and not a bad price. So I'm going to give it... I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I was on the verge of giving it a 4, but I just don't think the taste really gets there. Again, it might be worth trying if you're somebody who eats more healthy and wants a more healthy ramen noodle to have kind of as a backup for when you don't want to cook and things like that. This is probably a better way to go than top ramen, and probably worth the price increase. But if you're somebody who eats top ramen and likes it, then I don't think you're going to necessarily like Mike's Mighty Good any better. It's not bad. It's not going to taste bad by any means. It tastes fine, but it's going to be a bit of a disappointment. So that's Mike's Mighty Good Craft Ramen, specifically the Chicken Ramen Soup variety, and I will see you all next time.